Hi guys, this is John Adamson, the Rehab and Documentation Guru, standing outside in the dark outside my home with the corner light on my home shining down upon me so that you can actually see me. I don't know, maybe it'd be better if I did a totally in the dark video. But anyway, I wanted to talk about some common threads of conversations I'm seeing on two Facebook pages that I am following related to rehab. One is focused on unions. Uh, it's a rehab therapist for a union. And then the other one is OT, PT, and speech collaboration group. I hope I got you guys right. I'm going to actually be having an interview with one of their founders tomorrow. But anyway, I want to talk about this common theme I'm seeing, and that is that a lot of therapists are being limited to 5 or 6 visits. They do the evaluation, they get 5 or 6 visits mandated by their company, and that's it. And I want to talk about clinical efficacy of treatment. Excuse me, because this kind of practice, not only can you, as a gut reaction, say, well, this is not what's most effective for every single patient. Obviously, every single patient is different, so they might need more time than just 5 or 6 visits. But also, when you look at Medicare's regulations concerning what they feel is clinically efficacious frequency and duration, you're going to see some discord between what your administrators may be telling you if they're limiting you to visits and what Medicare actually has in their regulations. So, for example, the local coverage determinations by the Medicare administrative contractors often highlight a little bit more specificity in frequency or number of visits that they find to be medically necessary. So, for example, National Government Services is one of the larger MACs out there that handles rehab local coverage determinations, meaning the guidelines that impact Part A and or Part B care given in different settings. And what's interesting is if you look at NGS and you look at some of the others, they have general predictors of what would be medically necessary interventions. For example, therapeutic exercise is viewed as medically necessary generally in the 12 to 18 visit range. So what does that mean? That means that if you are being forcibly limited to 5 or 6 visits on your patients, then you're not even achieving what Medicare does recognize as a fair industry standard of what the medical necessity of TheraX would be. What about, what about modalities? Ultrasound and e-stim, for example, are generally considered to be efficacious within about 6 visits, and that you need to do periodic reassessment to determine whether or not they continue to be efficacious to keep billing for them. So if you're only given 5 or 6 visits and you're just finding out then if that modality is actually working, how are you going to really determine whether or not they need more of that particular intervention? Now, this obviously has nothing to do with the skill, and you may need to do more skill. What this does have to do with is the fact that some therapists feel, and I agree, that if you're limited to 5 or 6 visits, all you really can do in those 5 to 6 visits is educate. Educate, 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 and pass on your care. But there's so many things that we do that clearly cannot be just educated to somebody and then taken over. Modalities is one. You can never turn over ultrasound to a non-licensed person. So if somebody needs ultrasound, for example, more than that 5 or 6 visits you're being given, well, you can't turn that over. Shortwave diathermy, it's the same way. How about mobilization, joint mobilization? There's a reason there are scope of practice fights for joint mobilization out there. So if we're fighting between like PTs and chiropractors, for example, over who should be doing mobilizations and manipulation, grade 5, going beyond the physiological end range of a joint, if we're fighting over that, then how can we possibly turn a patient who needs joint mobilization over to a non-licensed person safely and effectively? We can't. And so those are the kinds of things that I think about when I hear people being limited to these 5 or 6 visit ranges by their operators, by their administrators in their organization, because that's rather short-sighted. There's so many things that we do as therapists that go beyond educate, and we might need to see that patient for quite a bit longer to prove, or I should say show, sorry guys, tripping over my own words, but would say show the most clinical efficacy. And that would still be very reasonable care as long as we're not overbilling, as long as we're proving that our skills are necessary. We oftentimes do need to go beyond 5 to 6 visits. And Medicare actually, in their own regulations, kind of has a sense of that, which tells you something. Anyway, this is John Adamson, the Rehab and Documentation Guru. Hoping you have a great night. God bless and take care.